Hey, welcome back to my documentary about recent and past paranormal activity that we've experienced. Matt has seen a creature and other strange phenomenon has been happening that he's experienced. But as for me, it's just mainly just vibes, or like brief flickers of things that just shadow-like things that I see sometimes. But it's nothing too big, literally, and also I don't know. I just get vibes. That's all I've been experiencing. And but now we're gonna go into more of the past kind of stuff, things we've already experienced. And let's go with Matthew because I think his is a very interesting story. I'm a firm believer of paranormal activity, and I never rule out like all the possibilities.
Especially in children, because they haven't put up the mental barriers that adults have.
Yeah.
Okay, so I lived on Tinker Air Force Base in Little Rock, Arkansas from the ages of 0 to 5. We lived in two different houses there, and I distinctly remember each one. Now, I don't remember the first couple of years in the first house because, hey, I was like 1 or 2, but, my memory started when I was 2.5 or 3. But I do remember that my mom and my dad they told me I used to have these horrible night terrors, and I actually remember having them. I'd lay there screaming for hours and hours. I'd scream my head off, and it got so bad once that the cops were called because the neighbors thought that my parents were beating me or something. But I kind of don't blame my parents because after you know months of screaming and with nothing helping, there's not really much you can do but ignore it. So I really don't blame them on that one. But what was going on? Because I distinctly remember, every night, I would go into my closet. It was usually the hallway closet. Sometimes it was my own closet. But I distinctly remember, and I vividly remember this. It was a skeleton in my closet that would talk to me, and he had whenever he talked, his eyes would glow red. But I remember him in such great clarity and detail. I don't think it could, have been something that never happened because my parents would always tell me they'd find me asleep in really weird places, like on top of the fridge or in the cabinets or, in the hallway closet. But anyway, the skeleton would talk to me. For me it would seem like hours, but I don't know, my perception of time must have been skewed because I was a kid. Or it could really have been hours. This went on for years, and I don't remember anything that we had discussed or talked about.
Nothing whatsoever.
Nothing whatsoever, except when you had put me under hypnosis, and he was saying that I was and I remember that he said I would do something important.
Yeah. About your future and stuff.
Yeah, and this was between the ages of 0 and 5, because we left the Air Force Base when I was 5 and moved to Claremore, Oklahoma.
So how would you physically describe the skeleton?
The skeleton, he wasn't, normal size. He was sort of my size.
Right. Like as a kid? Like a kid skeleton?
Yeah, I guess but he had an adult voice.
Right. Very deep voice.
Yeah, it was deepish, but it wasn't raspy. Okay, so flash forward 5 years old. About 5.5 years old, we moved to Claremore, Oklahoma. We're off of the Air Force Base, and we're living in the town where my family's in. Because my parents got discharged and everything, because they had me and stuff. But anyway, this was the next house we lived in, and I lived there for year and a half, maybe 2 years. Yeah, about a year and a half. Anyway, there was a little man in the closet this time, and he was dressed in a lot of green clothes, and he had a reddish beard. He would remind you of a leprechaun, but I don't know if that's just if he changed his form or if that's just my childhood filter is being put up. I don't know, but the thing is that he told me to tell my mom that everything was going to be okay and that my dad still loved her. But I had no idea that my parents were going through a separation. My mom just told me that my dad was staying at the base for a little while to finish, getting discharged before he came out here. And when I told my mom that, she like broke down in tears and started crying because I was not supposed to know anything that was going on between my parents at the time. And, that's not something that I could have just made up. And he would talk to me, and he would keep talking to me, and I liked him a little better than the skeleton, though I treated them like the same person. So, it could have been the same guy, just, changing forms, or it could have been a different guy altogether. I don't know.
So this was back on base, like when I was a kid. Like, I remember being up all the time at night, like all through my childhood. Like, I would always be afraid to walk on the floor. Like, I'd even like walk over the furniture and the dressers if I could, to not put my feet on the floor. There was one particularly bad night terror, and I was just screaming and screaming and screaming, and finally my mom came in and held me, and I was screaming and crying for my mom. And I was screaming, I want my mommy, and my mom's like, I'm here, you do have your mommy. And I'm like, and she told me, I said, no, I want my other mommy, the mommy I had before you. And, she just recently told me this, but when she told me that, I actually remember saying it. I remember crying on her shoulder, screaming for my other mommy that I had before her. And I don't know what part that, some other mommy plays in this, but that's kind of strange because
Do you have any ideas? Like any personal spiritual ideas?
it would have to be something supernatural because my mom made sure that I did not leave her sight when I was born.
Well, it's kind of ironic because I was found always wandering my streets, and that's why there's a fence. Actually, there's a fence around my mom's and around my parents' house, and that was to keep me in the vicinity of the area of my house when I was a kid, because I would always walk down the sidewalks and the streets and go to neighbors' houses, knock on their doors, ring their doorbells, and just talk to them about random shit. And I don't even remember really any of this stuff, but that's what my parents told me. So that's the story of the gate. That's why that's there. And yeah, a lot of strange shit.